Glad you could join us, everyone. I am Adesewa Josh, and this is Africa Matters. Almost 130 years ago, 26 treasures looted during the colonial era are welcomed back home in Benin. But tens of thousands of artifacts are still stuck in British, French, and other European museums. We go to South Africa next, where traditional healers are using modern technology to market once demonized local medicines. And Zimbabweans are turning to traditional meals, saying their cuisine is not only healthier, it's also more tasty. France has finally returned 26 pre-colonial royal treasures it looted from the Dahomey Kingdom, the present-day Republic of Benin in West Africa. Leaders had been calling for the restitution of the artifacts for more than a century. Residents in the Beninese capital, Cotonou, have welcomed their return. Many say the objects are more than just pieces of art, as they tell the history of a once prosperous empire that fell to the colonial forces in the late 18th century.
I am so happy, very proud to see our property that was in France, that the white people seized. It's our property, it's our treasure. When we were told that it was going to come to Benin today, we Abomayans are so proud and happy to have our treasure, which was in France.
In 2018, French President Emmanuel Macron initiated a process to begin repatriating the African artifacts held in French museums. Last year, it passed a law that will eventually see royal treasures returned. In a ceremony in Paris on Tuesday, Macron hosted Beninese President Patrice Talon to officially hand over the 26 objects.
This is not just a symbolic moment, but a moving one, I must say, and a historic one.
The restitution of the 26 works we are dedicating today is a step in the ambitious process of equity and restitution of memorial heritage once extorted from the Kingdom of Benin's territory by France.
According to a report by the Art newspaper, 160 museums and institutions around the world hold artifacts looted from Benin in their collections. In addition to France, the British Museum has one of the largest collections of Benin bronzes in the world. More than 900 pieces are housed in 45 UK institutions. The Netherlands National Museum of World Cultures has 114 Beninese items on display. 8 museums in Switzerland have set up an inquiry to investigate the source of their collections. And 38 institutions in the US possess an unknown number of Beninese artifacts. While some Western countries have returned looted African artifacts, others refuse to. They argue that the items belong to their collections, regardless of how they were obtained. But recent actions by France and other former colonial powers have opened up the debate about the importance of restitution and the impact their return will have on the cultural heritage of the societies they were stolen from. Now let's get more from Molara Wood, a writer, culture activist, and curator who joins me from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for making our time to speak to Africa Matters. There is a lot of confusion in the West, especially about where the Benin bronzes come from and where they should be returned. Let's hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's important. Thank you for having me on this show. I think it's important to point out, with the very encouraging developments from France with regard to 26 artifacts from the Republic of Benin, it's important to also point out that when we talk about the restitution of African art, we're talking mainly of the Benin bronzes, which tie back to the Kingdom of Benin Kingdom in present-day Nigeria, which is quite separate from the Republic of Benin. So we have all these encouraging developments, and you mentioned in your report this report commissioned by President Macron in 2018. But it goes back to 2017 when he was visiting West Africa and when he made that very important pronouncement that the restitution, the looking at the source and the manner in which these artifacts were taken and whether they would be returned, that would be a priority of his term of office. And we're seeing the fruits of that now. But France really has a smaller amount of these treasures. As big as they are in France, Britain and Germany has larger numbers, and we really need to address that.
So why do you think it has taken more than a century to start seeing them being returned?
Well, it's got to do with, I think, with the changing times. People are asking questions now. Black Lives Matter has happened. In the last 2 years, we've had 2 major books written on the Benin bronzes, The British Museums by Dan Hicks and Loot by UK journalist Barnaby Phillips. The tide has just turned, especially very rapidly over the last 2 years, and where it's become a moral question whether Western institutions can continue to hold on to these treasures taken by violence from African societies. Most notably, the 1897 invasion of Benin, Benin Kingdom in present-day Nigeria. And the largest holder of these treasures, as you say, is the British Museum, which is standing rigid, and they are saying that an act of parliament prevents the return of these artifacts. But man makes the laws. And what we're seeing with the very important example of France is that laws can be changed, and where there's a will, things can begin to happen. And the matter of the over 900 artifacts held at the British Museum, it's not ended. Things are going to continue to happen. But it's been encouraging to see the Western institutions that have done things recently. The Smithsonian has removed 10 of these bronzes from its display.
Well, let me come in here. Let me come in here quickly.
Yeah.
Do you buy the argument that these artifacts will be better preserved in European museums and appreciated by more people from there?
Certainly not. Certainly not. The treasures belong to the cultures that did not willingly let go of them.
That's right. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Malar Wood, a writer, cultural activist, and curator. Thank you so much for speaking to Africa Matters. We have more stories coming up for you here on Africa Matters, including
the medicines here in this market in South Africa may be traditional, but healers are bringing them into the modern era. I am in Tshepeng Mutima, and I'll tell you how they are taking African spirituality and indigenous ways of healing into the mainstream.
The civil war in Ethiopia has killed thousands of people, forced 2 million more from their homes, and pushed parts of the country into famine. As well as the enormous human cost, there are growing fears for Ethiopia's abundant religious and cultural heritage. Claire Herriot reports.
Another victim of Ethiopia's civil war. This person was hurt in an airstrike in the Tigray region. A year of fighting has left thousands of people dead. As well as accusations of crimes against humanity, there's evidence of cultural crimes too. The Al-Najashi Mosque in the town of Nagash in Tigray was hit in April, to the dismay of the caretaker.
It's very sad, not only for us, but the whole Muslim community around the world is shocked because this mosque was shelled.
Heavy fighting in Aksum in northern Tigray felled these colossal ancient obelisks, which are a United Nations World Heritage Site. Fighters from Tigray have been pushing south into the Amara region and have taken control of Lalibela, another World Heritage Site. At St George's Church in Lalibela, so far there's no evidence of damage or looting, but historians fear it's only a matter of time.
Where there are conflicts, treasures disappear, get stolen or damaged. Therefore, our treasures are in danger at this moment because of this conflict. These treasures could be from the 4th or the 5th or even earlier centuries if a serious study is carried out on them. The treasures in our country are very ancient that we cannot find them elsewhere or replace them.
In a war which the UN says is marked by extreme brutality towards people, there are fears the country's historical treasures will be lost forever. Claire Herriot, Africa Matters.
A new breed of business-savvy traditional healers in South Africa is using technology to reframe African spirituality. Historically, the practices were demonized by missionaries and banned under apartheid. Now, healers are using the latest branding, marketing, and communication tools to dispel taboos. Nsepeng Mutema traveled to the Gauteng province to meet some of them.
Mkhulu Romeo makes sure the sage, known here as impepo, is fully dry before he grinds it down. He's turning this herb, native to Africa, into soap and other everyday household products.
I can use branding to shift perceptions about traditional healing. So today we are packaging these medicines to make them look good, to make them look sexy, to make them look attractive to the average consumer.
Usually, impepo is dried and burnt to try to communicate with one's ancestors, or steamed for a variety of health benefits. The herb is seen as quote-unquote backwards by some who wouldn't burn it for fear of associating themselves with the practices of traditional medicine and African spirituality. But this 40-year-old traditional healer, or Sangoma as they are known here, is making bath soap out of impepo for mass consumption. It's part of his plan to promote widespread use of these natural herbs while also shifting public perceptions about indigenous ways of healing.
Sangomas need to practice in malls. Sangomas need to practice in commercial spaces. We are no longer a secret. We are no longer in the backseat. We are no longer hiding.
African traditional medicine and its practices were branded as witchcraft and banned under European colonial rule and the apartheid government. As a result, many people who use traditional herbs for healing still do so under a veil of secrecy because of the stigma attached to them. Little has also been done to develop the sector. Traditional medicines are mostly sold in makeshift markets like this one. Healers are often not taken seriously as healthcare practitioners, even in the black community. Perceptions across society are still shaped by colonial narratives that demonize indigenous knowledge.
Everything's on social media.
In Mabopane Township, Gogo Malwandle is live on Instagram. This young traditional healer is engaging with her millennial followers about African spirituality. Together with her guests, she regularly hosts these sessions to push back on the narratives that Sangomas are evil, sinister, or unholy.
We don't worship ancestors, we talk to ancestors and then we pray and worship God. The main reason why I like doing my live sessions is to teach what I've learned. So it's giving back from what I know about Ubunyanga and being a Sangoma at the age of 23.
Gogo Malwandle also uses the social media platform to warn people against charlatans who put people's lives at risk. The Traditional Healers Organization, a group representing thousands of healers, has been leading efforts to weed them out. They provide training courses and make sure that all their members are registered to practice. Gogo Mulahlegi represents this collective. She says another issue they are addressing is getting the government to acknowledge the value of their work.
All what we want from him as a president of the country, our government and the Department of Health, is to recognize the little that we do for the nation.
She hopes that in the near future, hospitals will integrate traditional healers and afford them the same respect given to other medical professionals. Nsepeng Mutema, Africa Matters, Johannesburg.
Traditionally cooked meals are making a comeback in Zimbabwe as more people start appreciating their health benefits. Western fast foods used to be the go-to for many Zimbabweans, but as John Yashanu reports, now families are opting for more nutritious meals.
48-year-old Nomo Manyonga is a tire fitter based in Harare. After hours of hard work, he looks forward to lunchtime at his favorite restaurant. He settles in for maize-thick porridge and sings praises of such a dish.
These foods are highly nutritious and treat numerous ailments. To live longer, eat them.
This restaurant in central Harare is now a favorite spot for many, with the traditional dishes being much lower in starch and carbohydrates compared to Western food.
60% of our dishes are traditional foods. Our aim is to promote traditional food. We serve mazondo, goat meat, mopane worms, that's maklindi. We serve roadrunner, that's hukumakaya.
Entrepreneur Besta Tigere also believes in traditional food and has started a project to process baobab fruits into juices, coffee, and porridge powder.
There is calcium, vitamin C, iron, zinc in baobab. The good is baobab is the best fruit of all the fruits.
Authorities here are equally upbeat.
The bad effects of a certain food, especially these Western or so-called Western diets, which are super refined, really are causing some of the increase in some of the non-communicable diseases.
In retail outlets, same story. The products on supermarket shelves have gradually started changing in line with the return to old tastes. There's now a variety of small grains and wild fruits instead of just the typical maize meal pulp. And the COVID-19 pandemic has actually helped with the move back to traditional foods. With many people returning to rural homes during lockdown, they have rediscovered the taste and health benefits once again. John Nyashanu, TRT World, Harare.
And now for a roundup of other stories making news across the continent. A Nigerian judge adjourned the trial of separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu until January next year. Kanu's lead lawyer walked out of court when security agents refused to allow other defense lawyers into the courtroom on Wednesday. Kanu is the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra who want to split from Nigeria. The Nigerian government considers it a terrorist organization. Kanu is facing 7 charges, including terrorism and treason. Jeremiah Taronka, a Sierra Leonean student from Durham University, has received the very first Global Student Prize. At the age of 17, while studying in Rwanda, he launched a startup called Optim Energy. It transforms vibration from vehicles and pedestrian footfall on roads to clean power. The $100,000 award was announced online by actor Hugh Jackman. And the world's first digital rhino horn will be auctioned off in South Africa to raise funds for wildlife conservation. The authenticity of the virtual horn will be verified by blockchain technology. Organizers hope wealthy collectors will buy it. Poachers hunt rhino for their horns, which are widely used in Asia for traditional medicine. More than 200 rhino have been killed in South Africa alone so far this year. In parts of Africa, the food and hospitality industry is vulnerable to price fluctuations and unreliable logistics. But as Usman Aluyuba reports, one Nigerian startup is digitizing the supply chain to help entrepreneurs navigate the high cost of procuring goods.
For the agri-food tech sector, the pandemic presented an opportunity to shake up the industry. One such startup is Vendis, and it's working to revolutionize the food supply chain in Nigeria. The online platform helps wholesalers, restaurants, and hotels to keep costs down by allowing them to order supplies directly from producers.
We started in the middle of the pandemic, and we started just when Lagos shut down. And at first we were concerned that we were not going to get any business. But it turns out that singular act of shutting everywhere down, and people couldn't directly go to the markets themselves, and we could, because we had a license as a procurement company, helped to change the buying habits of these businesses.
The firm operates in the capital Abuja as well as the commercial capital Lagos. The company says it has helped more than 100 business owners save about $480,000 in food procurement costs since the beginning of this year.
Has been easy because they do what we really require from most suppliers, and that is to combine quality of the actual produce with price. So getting the right price and getting good quality in Lagos isn't the easiest thing. Either you get great quality for, outrageous prices, or you get the right prices, but you can never guarantee the quality.
The online market also offers flexible payments to help food businesses grow, and it has helped more than 1,000 of its clients finance their ventures.
It has actually helped us to, produce more in terms of the volume that we are able to bring out. Before now, we used to bring out only 2,000 in a day, but with that funding that came from them, we are able to actually scale up that number to 2,005, which is, very significant. That's considering that it's about 20% increase in what we do.
In September, the startup delivered about 100,000 tons of food items with a value of $12 million. Now, Vendis plans to expand its operations to other African countries to help the industry flourish in other parts of the continent. Usman Aliyu Uba, Africa Matters.
Planting season is about to start in southern Madagascar, but the only thing likely to grow there is desperation. 5 years of drought have left more than 1 million people on the brink of famine, and that number is expected to double before the end of the year. The World Food Programme says it has the potential to become the world's first climate change-induced famine. Melinda Nucifora has more.
Locust and cactus leaves. That's the only food these villagers can get their hands on.
This is what we eat. This is all the people in the village have to eat. It's been 5 years since we've had any rain. Look at our crops. There are no leaves growing, not even one.
Southern Madagascar is in the grip of a growing crisis. The worst drought in 40 years has seen crops and livelihoods shrivel.
People do not have enough food to eat. They do not have enough money to have access to the food, and malnutrition rates are augmenting.
The World Food Programme predicts the situation could become the first famine in the world caused by global heating.
These people have not contributed to climate change, but they're paying probably the highest price.
The island is already experiencing extremely hot weather and unexpected sandstorms. And another dry forecast for the upcoming planting season means things are about to get worse. The organisation expects the number of people experiencing severe hunger to double by the end of the year to more than 2 million.
Madagascar is not an isolated incident. To me, it's the beginning of what we should expect. And the world needs to look at Madagascar to see what's coming your way in many other countries around the world.
The World Food Programme says it needs $69 million to fund its urgent aid programme, but no amount of money can reverse the damage already done. Melinda Nucifora, Africa Matters.
This week, we explored the city of Ouidah in the West African country of Benin. You may want to include it in your travel plans because some of the looted Beninese artworks returned by France will be on display in the coming weeks. that's our show this week. Kindly share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas on what you would like us to cover on Twitter using the hashtag #AfricaMatters. Feel free to reach out to me on my personal handle at Adesewa Josh for scoops, breaking news, or a story you would like us to investigate. We'll leave you with these images from across the continent.